The assignment. The Galactic Council's chambers on Station Alpha 7 always made James Carter feel small. Not just because of the massive crystalline dome that stretched hundreds of meters above his head, but because of what it represented. Humanity's relatively humble position in the vast tapestry of interstellar civilization. The massive chamber, designed to accommodate beings of all sizes and atmospheric requirements, hummed with the software of environmental systems and translated conversations. James adjusted the collar of his tactical suit, its matte black surface absorbing the rainbow of lights from the various atmospheric pods housing different species representatives. After 15 years as a security specialist in deep space, he thought he'd seen everything. The message summoning him to the council had proved him wrong. Specialist Carter, the melodic voice of Counselor Xenta rang through his translator. Your reputation precedes you. The ethereal being's translucent form shifted in its suspension field. We have a situation that requires your unique qualifications. James maintained his professional stance, hands clasped behind his back. In his experience, when aliens started complimenting humans, they were about to ask for something dangerous. I'm honored, Counselor. Though I admit, I'm curious why the Council needs a human security specialist. The chamber's lighting shifted, and a holographic display materialized in the center of the room. The image showed a being that made James catch his breath, not from fear, but from sheer wonder. The figure was clearly female, though distinctly alien. Her skin had a pearlescent quality that seemed to capture and release light in waves. Delicate crystalline structures grew naturally from her shoulders and crown, creating what looked like living jewelry. But it was her eyes that held his attention. 3 of them, arranged in a triangle, each one shifting through colors like an aurora. This is Ambassador Lyra Vex of the Cyrene Collective. Xenta continued. She holds the key to preventing a war that could tear apart 3 sectors of space, and someone wants her dead. James studied the hologram, his tactical mind already noting defensive considerations. The Cyrene were known for their powerful telepathic abilities and their crucial role as mediators in interstellar disputes. Their unique ability to sense emotional truth made them invaluable in diplomatic negotiations and dangerous to those with hidden agendas. The ambassador has already survived 2 attempts on her life, another council member added, their mechanical voice indicating they were from one of the synthetic species. Our standard security measures have proved inadequate. Because they're predictable, James concluded. Your potential assassins know all your protocols. Precisely. Xenta's form rippled with approval. Humans are still relatively new to the galactic community. Your security methods are unconventional by our standards, unpredictable. And you, Specialist Carter, are particularly known for thinking outside established parameters. James couldn't help but smile slightly. You mean we're still considered primitive enough to be surprising? Your words, not mine. Xenta responded, with what James swore was amusement. The ambassador is en route to the Nexus Summit. The peace talks there will determine whether 3 species go to war or find a path to coexistence. We need her to arrive alive and remain that way through the negotiations. The hologram shifted, showing maps of space stations, security layouts, and threat assessments. James absorbed the information quickly, his augmented neural implants, another uniquely human advantage, helping him process the data efficiently. There's something else, he said, noting a pattern in the attack reports. These weren't just assassination attempts. They were probing attacks, testing your defenses. Whatever's coming is bigger. Your insight serves you well, Xenta acknowledged. The ambassador's telepathic abilities make her particularly vulnerable to certain forms of attack. She needs a guardian whose mind she cannot accidentally read, whose thoughts won't bleed into her consciousness during high-stress situations. And there it was. Humans were among the few known species naturally resistant to serene telepathy. Their chaotic thought patterns and complex emotional states made them difficult to read. It was one of the reasons some species still found humans unsettling. When do I start? Immediately, Xenta replied. The ambassador's ship will dock in 3 hours, and Specialist Carter. There's one more thing you should know. The Siren have a particular sensitivity to human emotional states. Strong feelings can be overwhelming for them, even without direct telepathic contact. You'll need to maintain strict emotional discipline. James nodded, already running through meditation techniques he'd learned in his training. Understood. Professional distance will be maintained. As he left the council chambers, James couldn't shake the feeling that this assignment would test more than just his security expertise. The image of those color-shifting eyes stayed with him, and he found himself wondering what it would be like to guard someone who could sense emotional truth, even if they couldn't read specific thoughts. He had 3 hours to prepare for meeting Ambassador Lyra Vex in person. 3 hours to ready himself for what might be the most challenging assignment of his career. Protecting someone who could feel his every emotional shift, even if she couldn't read his thoughts. Someone whose death could trigger an interstellar war. No pressure. Hidden threats. The diplomatic vessel Starweaver lived up to its name. Its organic crystalline hybrid construction caught and refracted starlight in mesmerizing patterns, making it appear as if the ship was weaving the very fabric of space around itself. James Carter stood in the docking bay, watching the ship complete its connection sequence with Station Alpha 7. His neural implants were already processing the security feeds from every angle, but his attention kept returning to the main airlock. In moments, he would meet Ambassador Lyra Vex in person, and despite his years of training, he felt an unfamiliar tension in his chest. The airlock cycled, releasing a soft mist of compatibility atmosphere. Through the clearing vapor stepped a figure that made the hologram he'd seen earlier seem pale in comparison. Ambassador Lyra Vex moved with liquid grace, each motion flowing into the next like a dance choreographed by nature itself. Her crystalline growths caught the light differently in person, creating tiny rainbows that danced across the deck. Specialist Carter, she spoke, her voice carrying harmonics his translator couldn't quite capture. Your emotional discipline is impressive. Most beings project their feelings quite strongly upon first meeting a Siren. James maintained his professional stance, but allowed himself a small smile. Part of the job, Ambassador. Though I admit, your species' reputation for beauty was apparently understated. A ripple of color passed through her crystalline structures. Amusement, he guessed. Honesty wrapped in professionalism. Interesting. She gestured to her small entourage. Shall we discuss the security arrangements for my quarters? The next few hours passed in a blur of security protocols and arrangements. James found working with Lyra both easier and more challenging than he'd expected. Her tactical insights were sharp, and her ability to sense the emotional states of station personnel made threat assessment more efficient. But her presence was distracting in ways his training hadn't prepared him for. It wasn't until they reached her diplomatic quarters that the first test of their partnership came. James's neural implants flagged an anomaly in the atmospheric controls a split second before Lyra stiffened. Down, he shouted, tackling her as the ceiling vent released a shimming cloud of particles. His tactical suit's sensors screamed warnings about neurotoxins, but these were unlike anything in his database. Lyra's crystalline structures flared with energy, creating a bubble of pure atmosphere around them. Impressive reflexes, she managed, her 3 eyes scanning the room. Though perhaps next time, a warning before the physical contact. Your emotional state during combat is quite intense. James helped her up, trying to regulate his adrenaline surge. Apologies, Ambassador. I'll work on that. His implants were already tracing the attack's origin. This was an inside job. The toxin's signature suggests Meridian technology, but the delivery method is Vortex Confederation. 2 species that would benefit from the peace talks failing. Lyra noted, her middle eye shifting to a deep purple, but neither would work with the other willingly. Someone is trying to manipulate multiple factions. James activated a security quarantine while his suit's systems analyzed the toxin. Ambassador, I need to ask, what exactly are you carrying to these peace talks? What makes you valuable enough for this level of coordination against you?" Lyra was quiet for a moment, her crystalline structures pulsing slowly. "Information, Specialist Carter. The kind that could reshape the power balance in this sector." And she paused, all three eyes focusing on him, the ability to ensure its truth. The Siren aren't just mediators because of our telepathy. We can create permanent psychic bonds between negotiating parties, ensuring lasting trust. "Making you both a threat and an opportunity," James concluded. "Anyone who controls you could potentially manipulate those bonds." "Precisely." She moved closer, and James felt his pulse quicken despite his training. "Which is why the Council chose you. Your species' natural resistance to our abilities means you can't be compromised through me. But there's something else." Her eyes swirled with new colors. "You're naturally blocking me, even now. Most humans project their thoughts chaotically, but you, it's like looking at a storm through frosted glass." James maintained his professional demeanor, though her proximity made it challenging. "Specialized training. Developed for working with telepathic species." "No," she said softly. "This is different, and I suspect it's part of why you were really chosen for this assignment." Before James could respond, his implants flagged another alert. Multiple security systems were failing across the station. This wasn't just another attempt. It was the beginning of something bigger. "We need to move," he said, already planning evacuation routes. "This entire section of the station is being compromised." Lyra's crystalline structures flared again. "The toxin was a test. They're verifying their ability to affect my species specifically." She met his gaze. "Specialist Carter, I should warn you. In combat situations, maintaining my emotional shields becomes difficult. You may experience some telepathic bleed." "Understood," James replied, checking his weapons. "Just try not to dig too deep in there, Ambassador. A security specialist's mind isn't always a pleasant place to visit." Her expression shifted in what he was beginning to recognize as a Siren smile. "Please, given the circumstances, call me Lyra. And James, your mind might be more interesting than you think." The station's lights flickered, and emergency sirens began to wail. As James led them toward the secure evacuation route, he couldn't shake the feeling that this was more than just an assassination attempt. Someone was forcing them together, testing their defenses, their interactions. The question was, why? The Mine Bridge. Evacuation protocols turned Station Alpha 7's pristine corridors into chaos. Emergency lighting cast everything in a blood-red glow as James led Lyra through maintenance tunnels, avoiding the main evacuation routes where assassins would likely be waiting. "They're hurting the other diplomats," Lyra said, her crystalline structures dimming to avoid detection. "I can sense their fear, their confusion. This isn't just about me anymore." James's neural implants were struggling to maintain connection with the station's systems. "They're isolating us, cutting off communications, controlling movement patterns." He checked another junction. Classic kill box setup, but on a station-wide scale. A sudden explosion rocked the corridor behind them. James's tactical training kicked in automatically as he shielded Lyra with his body, pressing them both into an alcove. The physical contact sent a jolt through him that had nothing to do with the explosion. "Your thoughts," Lyra whispered, her three eyes widening. "They're becoming clearer to me. The stress of the situation must be affecting your barriers." James tried to reinforce his mental disciplines, but the combination of combat focus and physical proximity made it difficult. "We need to keep moving. My implants are picking up multiple hostiles converging on our position." They continued through the maintenance tunnels, but James could tell something was wrong. Lyra's movements were becoming less fluid, her crystalline structures flickering erratically. "They're using something," she said, her voice strained. "Some kind of psychic dampening field. It's painful." James checked his tactical readouts. "They're not trying to kill you. They're trying to incapacitate you. Make you vulnerable to The thought was cut short as a massive surge of energy rolled through the corridor. James's implants screamed warnings as his neural interfaces began to overload. Behind them, a group of figures in stealth suits emerged, wielding devices that pulsed with an otherworldly energy. Psychic inhibitors, Lyra gasped. They're trying to. She stumbled, and James caught her. The moment their skin made contact, the world exploded into color and sensation. James felt his carefully constructed mental barriers shatter as Lyra's consciousness crashed into his. The psychic inhibitors had forced her natural defenses wide open, and in her desperate attempt to protect herself, she had instinctively forged a mental link with the nearest compatible mind. The sensation was overwhelming. Images, feelings, and memories crashed between them like waves in a storm. He saw her childhood on the crystal spires of her homeworld, felt her dedication to peace, her fear of failure. And she saw him. The lonely years of training, the missions that haunted him, the walls he built around himself. "Well, this is unexpected," one of the attackers said, their voice distorted through their stealth suit. The human's mind should have been crushed by the forced linking. Unless the figure stepped closer, studying them. The council chose better than they knew. You're not just resistant to telepathy, are you, Specialist Carter? You're a void mind. James fought through the disorientation of the mental link, keeping his weapon trained on the attackers. Through the link, he felt Lyra's recognition of the term, her sudden understanding. A human with natural psychic nullification abilities, the attacker continued. Extremely rare, capable of not just resisting telepathic contact, but adapting to it. The perfect shield for a telepath. And the perfect weapon against one, another attacker added. Once we've studied how your mind works. Through the link, James felt Lyra's strength returning. The forced connection between them was stabilizing, adapting. Rather than fighting it, he made a split-second decision and opened himself fully to the link. The effect was immediate and stunning. Lyra's telepathic abilities flowed through him, enhanced rather than nullified by his unique mind. At the same time, his combat training and tactical awareness spread to her. They moved as one, her crystalline structures flaring with unprecedented energy, while his neural implants processed data faster than ever before. The attackers had expected to find them weakened by the force link. Instead, they found themselves facing something unprecedented, a perfect fusion of human tactical prowess and serene psychic power. James, Lyra's voice echoed both in his ears and his mind. I can't break the link. Not here, not now. Then we use it, he responded, feeling their thoughts align. Together. Through their shared consciousness, they coordinated perfectly. James's combat skills flowed through both of them as they moved in perfect synchronization. Lyra's psychic abilities, amplified by James's unique mind, overwhelmed the attacker's psychic dampening fields. In moments, the corridor was clear of conscious enemies, but both James and Lyra knew this was just the beginning. The link between them had changed everything. Protocol, mission parameters, and most importantly, their understanding of each other. Your mind, Lyra said softly, both aloud and through their connection. I've never experienced anything like it. You don't just resist telepathy, you complete it somehow. James felt her wonder, her scientific curiosity, and something deeper that neither of them was ready to acknowledge. We need to focus on the mission, he said, even as his thoughts betrayed how affected he was by their connection. Someone orchestrated this attack specifically to force this link. The question is why. Through their shared consciousness, a realization formed. The peace talks, the assassination attempts, the forced linking. It was all connected to something bigger. Someone had discovered what a void mind and a siren telepath could do together, and they had orchestrated everything to force this exact situation. As they made their way toward the station's secure core, both of them knew that nothing would be the same after this. The link between them had created something new, something that could change the balance of power in the galaxy. And somewhere on the station, someone was waiting to exploit exactly that. Betrayal at the summit. Station Alpha 7's secure core was a fortress within a fortress, designed to protect the galaxy's most sensitive diplomatic negotiations. As James and Lyra approached the sealed chambers, their shared consciousness processed multiple layers of information simultaneously. Through James's enhanced implants, they monitored security feeds and communication channels. Through Lyra's telepathic senses, they felt the emotional currents of dozens of diplomatic delegations: fear, anger, anticipation. The summit delegates are already gathering, Lyra observed, her thoughts flowing seamlessly into James's mind. Despite the attacks, or perhaps because of them, no one's willing to postpone the peace talks. Because someone wants everyone here, James replied, his tactical mind highlighting patterns through their shared awareness. The attacks weren't meant to stop the summit. They were meant to ensure it happened under specific conditions. Their mental link had grown stronger over the past hours, more refined. What had started as chaos had evolved into something unprecedented, a perfect synthesis of human and serene consciousness. Through James's eyes, Lyra understood combat tactics and security protocols on an instinctive level. Through her awareness, James could sense the subtle undercurrents of emotion and intention that filled the station. The massive doors to the summit chamber rolled open, revealing a scene of carefully controlled chaos. Representatives from 3 warring species, the Mechanoid Vortex Confederation, the Crystalline Meridians, and the bioengineered Nexus Collective, sat in environmentally controlled pods arranged in a triangle. Other species diplomats filled observation pods along the walls. At the center of it all stood Council Member Xenta, their translucent form shifting with what James now recognized as agitation. Ambassador Vex. Xenta's voice carried artificial calm. We feared the worst when communications were disrupted. Please, take your position. We must begin before tensions escalate further. Through their link, James and Lyra shared the same moment of realization. Xenta's emotional state didn't match their words. There was anticipation there, not relief. Counselor, James stepped forward, his mind working in concert with Lyra's. The attacks on this station were coordinated with inside knowledge. Someone knew exactly how to target the ambassador's physiology. Xenta's form rippled. This is hardly the time for accusations, Specialist Carter. The peace talks were never meant to succeed. Lyra finished, her crystalline structures pulsing with energy. This entire summit is a trap, but not to start a war, to prevent one. Through their shared consciousness, the pieces fell into place. James's tactical analysis merged with Lyra's understanding of galactic politics, creating a clear picture. The 3 species about to go to war. James continued, they've been developing something together, haven't they? Something that threatens the current balance of power. A new form of consciousness, Lyra added, reading the shifting emotions in the chamber. A way to merge organic, crystalline, and mechanical minds into something new. Something that would make the current political structure obsolete. Xenta's form stopped shifting entirely. Very impressive. The forced linking of your minds was meant to incapacitate you, Ambassador. Instead, it has created exactly what we feared. Proof that different forms of consciousness can merge successfully. The chamber's security systems suddenly activated, force fields shimmering into place around each diplomatic pod. Through their link, James and Lyra felt the surge of trapped panic from the delegates. The Council has maintained peace through careful balance, Xenta continued. We cannot allow that balance to be disrupted by uncontrolled evolution of consciousness. The 3 species represented here were on the verge of proving that barriers between different forms of life could be breached. Their war would have destroyed that research, setting back such developments for generations. And now we've demonstrated an even more powerful merger, Lyra said, her mental touch helping James process the implications. A human void mind and a Sirene telepath, creating something beyond either species' capabilities, which makes you too dangerous to survive. Senta concluded. The forced linking was meant to destroy your minds. Instead, it has proven exactly why this line of development must be stopped. Security drones emerged from hidden panels, weapons charged. But James and Lyra were already moving, their linked consciousness allowing them to act with perfect coordination. James's combat training flowed through both of them, while Lyra's telepathic abilities, amplified by his void mind, reached out to the trapped delegates. The Council doesn't speak for all of us. Her thoughts broadcast to every mind in the chamber. They fear change, fear evolution, but we are showing them the future. Through their link, James coordinated with her, his tactical expertise guiding their movement as they disabled drones and security systems. The delegates, sensing the truth through Lyra's broadcast, began using their own abilities to break free of their containment fields. You cannot stop evolution, James projected through their link, Lyra amplifying his thoughts to reach even the mechanical minds of the Vortex Confederation. Different forms of consciousness working together makes us stronger, not weaker. Zenta's form blazed with energy. You doom us all to chaos. The merging of minds, the breaking of barriers, it will destroy everything we've built. No, Lyra and James spoke together, their merged consciousness reaching its full potential. It will build something better. The chamber erupted into conflict, but not the one Senta had planned. Instead of three species fighting each other, the combined delegates turned against the Council's security forces. Through it all, James and Lyra moved as one being, their linked minds coordinating the resistance. But even as they fought, both knew that this battle was just the beginning. They had uncovered a truth that would shake the foundations of galactic society and their own understanding of themselves. The question was, what would they become together? And what would it mean for the future of all species? Beyond duty. The aftermath of the battle in Station Alpha 7's summit chamber sent shockwaves through the galaxy. Through their linked consciousness, James and Lyra felt the ripples of change spreading outward like waves in the cosmic ocean. Representatives from the three warring species, Vortex, Meridian, and Nexus, stood among the wreckage of the Council's plans, their minds open to new possibilities. The Council's control is breaking, Lyra observed, her crystalline structures reflecting the emergency lighting that bathed the chamber. Through their link, James felt her mixture of hope and concern. But what comes next could be even more dangerous. James moved through the chamber, his tactical training automatically assessing threats while his mind remained merged with Lyra's. Revolution always is, but suppressing evolution is more dangerous than embracing it. Zenta and their surviving loyalists had been contained, their betrayal documented and broadcast across secure channels throughout the galaxy. But the real challenge was just beginning. They're afraid, Lyra broadcast privately through their link. All of them. Even those who fought with us. What we represent, what we've become together. It challenges everything they believe about consciousness and identity. James felt the truth of her words both through their connection and through his own observations. The delegates watched them with a mixture of awe and fear, seeing in their merged consciousness both a promise and a threat. Then we show them, he responded through their link. Not tell them. Show them. Understanding flowed between them. With their combined abilities, his void mind amplifying and stabilizing her telepathic power, they could do more than just communicate. They could demonstrate the true potential of merged consciousness. Lyra stepped forward, her crystalline structures blazing with new energy. Representatives of the Vortex Confederation, the Meridian Collective, and the Nexus Assembly, her voice carried both sound and thought. You came here seeking peace. Instead, you found truth. James moved to stand beside her, their merged consciousness reaching out to touch the minds of all present, organic, crystalline, and mechanical alike. The Council feared your research into consciousness merger because they knew it would change everything. They were right. But change isn't something to fear. Through their link, they created a space where all forms of consciousness could meet. The mechanical precision of the vortex merged with the crystalline harmonies of the meridians and the organic complexity of the nexus. And through it all flowed the stabilizing power of James's void mind and the connecting force of Lyra's telepathy. For a moment, every being in the chamber experienced the truth. Consciousness was not bound by form. Unity did not require uniformity. This is what the council feared, Lyra continued as they gently withdrew the shared experience. Not war, but understanding. Not chaos, but a new kind of harmony. Your research wasn't just about merging different types of minds, James added. It was about transcending the boundaries that keep us separate, like the boundary between human and serene that we've crossed. The chamber was silent for a long moment as the implications settled in. Then, one by one, representatives began to speak, not just with words, but with all forms of communication available to their species. The old structures will resist. The vortex representative's mechanical voice resonated. Change of this magnitude will not be stopped, the meridian delegate's crystalline form chimed. We have seen the truth. Evolution calls. Through their link, James felt Lyra's surge of emotion at the turning tide. But there was something else there too, something personal that they'd both been avoiding confronting. The link she sent privately to him. Now that the crisis is over, we should break it. James completed the thought, feeling her immediate response of reluctance that matched his own. The forced merger may have been their plan, but what we've created is something entirely new, she finished. Something neither of us wants to lose. Their shared consciousness swirled with possibilities. The personal implications were as staggering as the political ones. A human and a serene, their minds permanently linked, creating something beyond either species' normal capabilities. It would change them both forever. It already has. Lyra's thoughts merged with his. The question is, are we ready for what that means? James let his carefully constructed walls fall completely, sharing every doubt, hope, and feeling he'd been holding back. Through their link, Lyra's response flowed back, her own fears, her own hopes, and something deeper that had been growing between them. The galaxy is changing, he said both aloud and through their connection. Maybe it's time we change with it. Lyra's crystalline structures pulsed with colors that through their link, James now recognized as joy. Beyond duty then. Beyond everything we thought we knew. Around them, the delegates began forming working groups, already planning how to implement consciousness merger research safely and ethically. The future would be complicated, full of challenges and resistance from those who clung to the old ways. But as James and Lyra stood together, their merged consciousness humming with possibilities, they knew that evolution, both personal and cosmic, couldn't be stopped. They had become something new, something that proved humanity's greatest strength, the ability to adapt, to change, to transcend limitations. Through their permanent link, they felt each other's dedication to facing whatever came next together. They had started as protector and protected, but had become something else entirely, pioneers of a new way of being, proof that the boundaries between species were meant to be crossed. The stars seemed brighter through Station Alpha 7's massive windows, as if the universe itself was celebrating the dawn of a new era. An era that had begun with a security assignment and ended with a revolution, both in the galaxy and in two hearts that now beat as one.